Okay. My Sam Harris thing is out. You guys gonna listen to this for a bit. I gotta go do something. I'll be back. I love you. Do you have any final words for us, Sam?
Nope. That was it.
Be careful. Stay safe. Don't die.
Bye.
Okay, listen to this for a bit. 46 minutes. Wait, does he post the whole thing on his podcast? Okay, good luck. It's so exciting. Brand new talking points you've never heard before in your entire life.
Even seriously, when he says that he's... Welcome to the Making Sense podcast. This is Sam Harris. Just a note to say that if you're hearing this, you're not currently on our subscriber feed, and will only be hearing the first part of this conversation. In order to access full episodes of the Making Sense podcast, you'll need to subscribe at samharris.org. There you'll also find our scholarship program, where we offer free accounts to anyone who can't afford one. We don't run ads on the podcast, and therefore it's made possible entirely through the support of our subscribers. So if you enjoy what we're doing here, please consider becoming one. Welcome to the Making Sense podcast. This is Sam Harris. The tractor beam of politics is continuing to exert its pull on everything. I actually watched less of the Democratic National Convention than the Republican one, though I saw enough to be encouraged. I'm happy with Harris's apparent pivot to the center. Whether she can credibly maintain that under questioning by journalists remains to be seen. I'm hopeful that she can. But I think the debates will probably matter a lot. At least they present the possibility of being decisive. I think a lot can happen there, for good or for ill. But one point I would make, this is a point I have made to some of my friends who will be voting for Trump. You might be surprised that I have friends who will be voting for Trump, but I actually have some close ones. The moves that are generally used to discount the crazier things he says he will do can be used even more plausibly to discount the crazy things that Kamala Harris has said, right? I mean, if you can not take Trump literally or even seriously when he says that he's going to round up 20 million undocumented workers, that is, fruit pickers and restaurant workers and nannies and millions of people who are doing indispensable work in our economy, he's going to round them all up in, concentration camps, using the military, and deport them. Just linger over the details here for a moment and realize that millions of these people, quite literally millions of these people, have children who are themselves American citizens, right? If you can discount this phantasmagorically unethical and counterproductive fantasy of a policy as just political pandering and pablum, messaging to his fanatical base, and perhaps you can, well then why can't you discount Harris's ridiculous and obviously unworkable idea of imposing a wealth tax? Does anyone think she's going to do that? I don't. But it's interesting, the bar for political integrity and honesty moves as you move left of center. If she actually knows she can't do such a thing, it's absolutely outrageous for her to make such a campaign promise. But right of center, nobody cares. Everyone apparently takes what Trump claims he will do with a grain of salt. Anyway, Vice President Harris will not be able to avoid hard questions forever. Certainly some will come up in the debate if she declines to hold a press conference or do long-form interviews before then. And I am reasonably hopeful that she will find the center of our politics and stake her claim there. More to come on politics, and even in today's conversation. Today I'm speaking with Stephen Bannell, otherwise known as Destiny. Stephen is a YouTuber and political streamer. His background is a little different from most of the people I've had on this podcast, but his commentary on politics and culture has made him almost ubiquitous online. where he stirs up controversy on both the right and the left. He grew up in a conservative Catholic household and now spends much of his time arguing against American conservatism and Trumpism in particular. He's debated some of the same people I've debated on a variety of topics, and he's debated people who I wouldn't be inclined to talk to, people like Candace Owens and Nick Fuentes. One of the things we discuss today is how he thinks about engaging such a wide range of characters. We talk about allegations of Trump derangement syndrome, why Trump's norm violations don't matter to so many people, people's misadventures on the information landscape, social media and the problem of being too online, our differences of emphasis when thinking about conflict in the Middle East, the difference between the far left and the far right in American politics, the lack of sane conservative policies to counterbalance the craziness of the left, whether the pendulum of sanity is swinging back on the left, the ethics and politics of giving public apologies, the maintenance of private friendships or their failure and public disagreements, and other topics. Anyway, it was a fun conversation, and now I bring you Stephen Bannell. I am here with Stephen Bannell. Stephen, thanks for joining me.
Hey, thanks for having me, Sam.
You were otherwise known as Destiny. Perhaps we should start there. Are you in the process of retiring Destiny, or are you just bouncing between both names?
My background when I first started streaming forever ago was in professional gaming for StarCraft 2. So I kind of went through the trouble of getting all the branding for Destiny, like the YouTube channel, the Instagram, and everything else. So it feels very difficult to give up. It's nice to just have that name. So I go by, people call me Steven in real life, and you can find my stuff online as Destiny. So I'm okay with it.
Yeah. Well, so you've been very active in a part of online culture that I have had very little to do with. I mean, as you say, you got your start in gaming, but then you have become quite prominent online, debating people around mostly politics, but I think you've covered a wide range of topics. How did that start for you?
My mom is from Cuba. She came over when she was 6. So I grew up in a very conservative household, and my parents have always had very strong conservative opinions. And then going through grade school and high school, I guess I have like the debater archetype. I don't know if that's genetic or just I got it from my mom environmentally. So I've always been kind of like an argumentative, disagreeable person who's been politically interested. When I first got into streaming video games in end of 2010, early 2011, the focus was video games, but we also spoke a lot about, just like pop culture, philosophy, science, politics, whatever. And then in 2016, I picked it up as a much more significant part of what I did online.
And you and I debated at least a few of the same people. I've debated Jordan Peterson several times. You did that at least once. I think you've also spoken to Ben Shapiro. I'm not sure how we've overlapped with other people, but I think you've spoken to people who I would avoid. I'm wondering how you make these decisions. I saw that you spoke to Nick Fuentes, who's, I think, an avowed white supremacist, if not actual Nazi. Recently, you spoke to Candace Owens. Is there anyone you regret engaging?
I'll take that in 2 parts. So for the first one of my strengths is that I'm willing to talk to almost anybody. So it gives me very big reach into a lot of different types of communities because I'm willing to go into different shows and I can have a good time with a large variety of people and different types of characters, but I can still provide pushback against a large variety of different types of characters. So it's kind of a balancing act of how aggressive do I want to be versus how long do I want my legs to be? How far do I want my reach, I guess, to extend into other communities? The only times I'm disappointed or I regret engaging with people is if I feel like the other person got more out of it than I feel like I did. So for instance, if I were to platform a very small, very radical person and then not give adequate pushback, and I feel like he bested me in a conversation that I could have been more prepared for, or if I'm, I don't want to promote bad ideas and like bring them to everybody's attention and then, have a bad showing against it. But if there's like, really popular talking points and a lot of people believe the thing, I think it's worth discussing and I'll have those people on to fight with them. Yeah. And then the second part was if I regret, over the past year, I've regretted everything. God.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah. It's a constant balancing act between, like I said, like how gentle do I want to be versus how aggressive do I want to be. I would say around the last year, I'd been making a more I go back and forth between these like very empathetic approaches to debate versus like these very aggressive approaches. And so the past year, I've been more empathetic, and I've gotten conversations with Jordan Peterson and Ben Shapiro and Candace Owens. And I worry sometimes that I play this role in like, oh, well, look, I debated Destiny and we got along and it was fine. And it's like, well, we kind of debated, but I was being very, very, very gentle because I'm trying not to make you so mad that you'll never talk to me again or that you won't have the conversation. So then when I look back at the role I played in that, and then I see now when I take more aggressive positions on things that I feel strongly about, they're like, well, I can't talk to Destiny. That guy's crazy. Candace Owens wouldn't let me in her space a week ago because she said I was a sexual deviant while she was speaking with Andrew Tate and Dan Bilzerian. I'm like, what? So now I'm like,
you're in good company, or
you.
you're worse than that good company.
Yeah.
I mean, I watched part of your conversation with Candace, and I mean, now perhaps she has transformed into her current monstrous shape since you debated her. I haven't really followed her timeline very closely. This is one of the consequences of having gotten off social media. There are things I don't follow, which they seem very big online, I'm sure. But, Candace Owens becoming a proper anti-Semite was something I think I had on my bingo card some years ago. And, so I was unsurprised, but I'm not quite sure when she fully pulled the mask off, if it was ever properly on. You don't think the semi-friendly, even somewhat adversarial conversation with her just has the net effect of kind of laundering her reputation with your audience and doing more harm than good?
With my audience, absolutely not. With the other audiences, that's what is so hard to determine. Like I said, I don't like the idea that Candace can say like, oh, well, I had a debate with Destiny or I had a conversation with Steven. And it's like, not really. That was a very gentle. You watch the conversation. I think in around 10 minutes, I realized that even then I'm pushing back too much and she's about to rage out and leave. And I'm like, okay, well, we got to be more gentle. So that irritates me. My audience is never becoming, just because I put out so much content, I stream so much, I put out so many videos and I have so many conversations. They're not going to hear somebody like that and instantly be captivated and become whatever neo-Nazi Blexit combo of weird stuff she is now. But for audiences in the middle, I don't know. It's hard to say. It's good to provide some pushback. Like, it legitimizes me in that I can talk to a lot of different people. It legitimizes me in the eyes of her audience. Like, oh, well, this, Steven's a reasonable guy that you can have conversations with. But then it also plays kind of a dirty role that everybody's been complicit in over the past several years of like making some of these ideas seem a lot more reasonable and sane than they actually are. And I've spent the past few months or the past month or so after the assassination attempt, saying, okay, hold on, no, let's back up. A lot of this stuff is insane, and I think we need to go back to calling this insane.
Is there anyone whose name I would recognize who you've decided not to talk to because you just viewed them as too dishonest or unethical?
I'll still talk to anybody, but the conversations are just going to be a lot more aggressive. I'm not going to have a conversation with Jordan Peterson while he just kind of like meanders through the point that 20% excess deaths in Europe are all caused by the vaccine. That's not going to happen next time. Like, okay, well, we're going to sit here, we're going to fixate on this point now. Or when I ask Ben Shapiro, like, don't you guys think you grade Trump on a curve? And he's like, yeah, we do. I'm like, okay, that can't stand, right? Yeah, I just won't let those things flow by anymore, yeah.
So what have you regretted in the last year? What has been the controversy or the chaos?
For some reason, I never understood that the media is, I always hear the media is left-wing dominated. The media is dominated by the left. And I hear that and I look online and I see kind of the crazy left. And then I look at like CNN and MSNBC and I'm like, oh, okay, maybe they are. But somehow, even in left-wing spaces, the conservatives have such a good reign on controlling the discourse. And I'm so upset that I allowed myself to be kind of brainwashed by the Trump derangement syndrome insult, where I'm like, okay, I got to be really fair. I got to be really careful when I cover Trump because I don't want to sound deranged. I don't want to sound unhinged. And, and I'm sitting here trying to think like, okay, well, when Trump said this absolutely crazy thing, when January 6th happens, like it was just this and that and that. And then meanwhile, the conservatives are like, so here's the 57th picture of Hunter Biden's dick that we're showing in Congress. And we know, by the way, that him and Joe Biden, unilaterally dictated world policy to get rid of this prosecutor in Burisma. And it's like, oh my God. The uneven playing field, the assassination attempt, I think, completely broke me. When I saw how indignant conservatives are, like, you guys are calling us Nazis and look what happens. And then I'm like replaying in my mind all the Paul Pelosi comments. And I'm like, no, this is insane. I'm sorry. You guys completely bought the farm on this. This is crazy.
What do you attribute this skewing to? I mean, let's take the case of an intelligent person who is not allergic to Trump in the way that we are. I mean, I happen to know some of these people. I even have a few good friends who I would consider, this is something I say to their face. I consider them low information voters. They're simply not disposed to pay attention to all of the thousands of norm violations and other indiscretions that Trump is trailing, right? So they have a little bit in their head. They have a lot of what I would consider misinformation from the right that more or less exonerates Trump on all counts. The phrase, the Russia collusion hoax, does an inordinate amount of work in their brains. And they've essentially just averted their eyes from the whole problem, and they come away with a feeling that more or less all of the kind of reaction that you and I have had to Trump is totally overblown. It is Trump derangement syndrome. It is just, we don't like the guy's personality and we couldn't get over that. But when you look at policies, he's super normal and not even especially conservative. And, much of his criticism of the powers that be and the way things were done in Washington for as long as anyone can remember, many of those criticisms are valid. There is a kind of deep state sclerosis that needs to be reamed out. They don't spend much time thinking about the actual ideologues in his orbit, people like Steve Bannon and what he might say on his dumb podcast. And they just see a very clear trade-off between Trump, who is calling bullshit on obvious bullshit, like wokeism, and the moral panic on the left that has racialized everything and made it seem like trans bathrooms is the greatest human rights concern of our time, et cetera. And they're truly allergic to all the stuff that's happened on the left, and so they're willing to support Trump, warts and all. How would you perform psychic surgery on this person?
So first, we have to be really clear. Are we talking about the audience, or are we talking about like the larger content creators? I call them content creators. You might call them pundits or commentators.
Yeah, I guess anything you would want to say to or about such a person so as to have an effect upon anyone in the audience like him or her.
I think there are several really large things at play. I think one of the larger, there are several large topics at play. One of the larger ones that is hard to talk about is, I had a viewer that emailed me with this idea, and I love this idea, and I stole it. He calls it magic boxes. That if you were to go back into the past and you were to hold an abacus, okay, it's very obvious what the function of an abacus is, and you can't hide any conspiracies inside of it. There are no secret cameras. There is no government listening device. Nobody's stealing your. It's just you just see what it is and you operate it, as you do. Nowadays with a phone, you don't really know everything that's going on inside of the phone. So if somebody were to say something like, "I think my phone is always recording me," well, to even begin to have that conversation, it's like, okay, well, do we understand, how telemetry works, how data is sent, what kind of connection is needed, what kind of permissions are needed, like the difference between like the operating system versus an application. Like there's so much you have to go through that in life today, we basically operate so many of these magical boxes where on the operating level, on the user level, things are so abstracted away from what's actually happening that it's allowed people to insert so much craziness that can't be easily fact-checked by anything. And I find that this is especially true when you look at my obsession lately has been, I'm trying to compile like a convincing argument relating to the January 6th stuff. So this is where my brain is kind of existing. But you might look at something like Donald Trump making a phone call to not to Raffensperger, but below him, an election fraud investigator in Georgia. If you have the prerequisite background to understand civics and the role of the president in a campaign and the role of a state election investigator, all of that, just that phone call in and of itself is so unfathomably inappropriate. It is such a horrible call. But in order to even begin to understand why, you have to explain so much. And I'll be honest, even I didn't really understand, like when you say that, like, well, there's electors and, the people don't elect the president, the electors, I didn't even really know what that meant until like 2 years ago. And most people just, I know this because polling data, most people don't even know 3 branches of government, right? So how can you even begin to explain, the type of egregious norm violations that are happening when people don't know the norms, the systems that have the norm, people just don't have the understanding to even be able to grapple with, why would it be bad for this guy to make a phone call? But that people immediately understand, like cutting children's penises off to make them trans or whatever other crazy, like far left conspiracy stuff the conservatives like to obsess over. Like that's immediately understandable. So yeah, that's one huge thing that you have to get over is you just need like a decent foundation of knowledge to even understand why some of the things are norm breaking. Yeah.
let's focus on January 6th. What would you say to someone who thinks that January 6th was basically a non-event? I mean, it certainly wasn't an insurrection. It was there was some sort of misbehavior on one side of the building, and on the other side of the building, courtesy of Tucker Carlson and others, we have footage of the cops just letting people in. And so, was it violent? Yeah, I guess if you look at some of the footage, it was super violent, but some of the people don't even look at that footage, and they just see the people getting let in and then wandering around in what seemed to be a kind of a low-stress environment, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that seems strange. And then there are rumors that there were, FBI plants in the crowd, and maybe this whole thing was a kind of false flag thing that I heard a rumor that Pelosi didn't get enough cops there when she could have, et cetera, et cetera. So, and Trump did say from the dais, that you should all be peaceful in some form. And so all of this, just this impressionistic tour of, half-truths gives people a sense that, all right, that whatever happened over there, it was ugly, and I wouldn't have voted for it, but it wasn't really Trump's responsibility, and it was just a mob that misbehaved, and American democracy wasn't at stake. How would you untangle that?
I mean, it's kind of going back to what you said about, it sounds so bad to say, but like low information voters. For stuff like this, I think like 2 or 3 weeks ago, I did a little focus group because I've compiled so much information about this. And I got 6 pretty decently big YouTubers together. And I went through 7 hours of information, and I asked them hey, what's the most surprising thing to you? Or what didn't you know? Or what do you care about? Or what don't you care about? And for a lot of it, it was just so much information that people don't know. So one of the things that I was told after talking to these people so long is one thing they said is, I didn't realize the timelines at the Capitol. So for instance, people will say, Donald Trump tweeted, stay peaceful, and that should be good, right? But when you actually look at everything that was happening in the day of and the context, and it's oh, that tweet was sent 20 minutes after the Capitol had been broken into, an hour and a half after the Capitol grounds had been penetrated. When you start to see the tweets in context of an actual timeline, stuff takes on a far more insidious shape than when you just say, oh, well, he tweeted out, be peaceful. And, who knows at what time or what part of the day. Having more facts, I think, and contextualizing things in a more appropriate way. Nobody knew anything about the elector plot, the 7 fake slates of electors. And none of this is conspiratorial. All the information is out there. You can see the fake slates that they all signed with their signatures. There's a YouTube video of them trying to go to the Capitol in Michigan to enter. The plot inside to have Clark replace Rosen, when Rosen and Donahue are arguing with Trump about sending out a fake letter to the states about voter fraud, that was a really big one. A lot of people will say this is the stupidest thing I've ever heard about. People say we don't know if Trump knew he was lying about voter fraud. How could you ever prove what's in somebody's mind? And it's well, let me introduce you to the entire criminal justice system of the United States, because in order to convict on crimes, you have to know what the mens rea is. That's the most important part of convicting on a crime. But for Trump, there are so many examples of somebody saying, hey, by the way, this isn't true. And then 2 days later, Trump will say the exact same claim over and over and over and over and over again. He does this so many times. And having that clearly laid out where people can say, you know what? I think Trump actually just was lying. And I think he knew the whole time. But it's a big information dump, and you have to find a way to present the information in a compelling and an interesting and an emotional way. And then how close we were. Oh, the 2 other things. How close we were on the 6th to everything failing. If Pence had flipped, if there was more violence, there are a couple of things. Pence is the big part that didn't flip that could have. That's one thing. And then the second thing was, I didn't realize this until I was really late into my research. Oh my God. The best video that you could ever watch on January 6th is InfoWars. If you really want to know the day of what people felt like and what was going on when they watched that, it's so funny because when conservatives talk about it now, they memory hole it, right? Oh, it was just some people wandering around. Who cares? Watching the conservative coverage and the tweets the day of, I saw, Ashley Babbitt might be the first victim of the second revolution. There was that meme video of the woman who got sprayed with mace or whatever, and she's like, we're storming the Capitol, dude. It's a revolution. Constantly referring to the rioters as patriots, saying that they've taken the Capitol, we've overtaken it, we've got it, we've captured this back, for the people. It's so obvious what everybody's saying and what's going on. And then as soon as Babbitt gets shot, the National Guard shows up, the rhetoric starts to change a bit. There are so many funny quotes. There's even quotes from some of these guys on, I think Owen Schroyer might have been one, where people are saying things like, these are patriots. This isn't BLM or Antifa. You could tell these are patriots. And then the next day, it was all Antifa. We don't know who any of these people were. It's yeah.
Yeah, I think the simplest cut at this for me, and I'm always surprised that it doesn't work on everybody, and there's just endless examples of it not working. I mean, it hasn't worked on half the country, but it really can come out in a very short paragraph, which is just that what we had was a sitting president who would not commit to a peaceful transfer of power. I mean, months in advance of the election. I mean, this was back in March or so. I think that the question was first put to him, and he clearly declined to abide by the results of an election unless he won that election.
Mm-hmm.
And while the election was being run, he was clearly preparing the ground to call it fraudulent. And he then lied endlessly about having had the election stolen from him. I mean, the irony is that he's in the process of attempting to steal an election while claiming that it has been stolen from him. And in the end, we didn't have a peaceful transfer of power, right? So like that single desecration of the foundational norm of our democracy. I mean, it seems to me that we don't have the laws that we actually should have in place to punish a president who does this, right? To have a sitting president not commit to a peaceful transfer of power and then do what he can to ensure that we don't have one, it seems to me that that jail should await such a person, and we don't actually have the laws to accomplish that. But I
mean, I fully disagree on that last point. We had Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, which was very clearly meant to prevent a person like this, at the very least, from holding future office.
Right. Well, sorry, but
and we do have criminal charges against him, but the Supreme Court is protecting him from those. So,
it's incredible. I mean, but the fact that having that in the 14th Amendment is as ineffectual as it is in practice. In any case, so it just, why do you think so many people, I mean, fully half the nation, one can, I guess, discount all the people who really aren't informed about this, but there are all too many people who know exactly what I just alleged to be true, which is that he didn't commit to a peaceful transfer of power and we didn't have one. Why doesn't that matter, do you think?
Well, for some people, this is why I'm saying there's different issues that affect different players or people in different ways, and they all have different motivations for why they believe what they do. So for the average voter or listener, I would say a lot of these people just don't have all the information, and they are susceptible to all the ordinary follies of man that me, and I imagine you, everybody is susceptible to. We hear things we want to hear. We tend to seek information we want to, find to affirm our biases and all this. This is just kind of what everybody is falling prey to some extent, and to some level in your life. For the content creators, there are far more interesting questions to ask there, but it depends on the person, it depends on the issue. One thing I would say when it comes to foreign stuff that I've been asking questions about, but it's hard to dig into it, I really wonder how much foreign pushing there is on some figures to just have positions that wholesale align with like Russian foreign policy, just like completely 100%. You're 100% alignment. You couldn't be a better spokesperson when talking about, like, it's the same talking points for the Ukrainian war, right? Oh, they're sending men off to die. There's no reason for this. Everybody in the East, it was a civil war the whole time, and Ukrainian biolabs and Nazis and the United, now they're starting war in Russia with an invasion. It's like the exact same talking points coming from like Western people. I'm like, why? That's the thing I wonder. A second thing is, unfortunately, if you brand yourself as a person of a certain political persuasion, you kind of have to stick with it. Like, could you imagine, talking to Ben Shapiro, could you imagine if Ben came out and was like, you know what? I kind of don't like Donald Trump, if for no other reason, just because morally he's an atrocious human being.
He was sort of there in the beginning. I mean, I haven't really followed what Ben has done of late, but in the beginning, he was someone who would make the right concessions to basic sanity and ethics around Trump. I mean, he was obviously much more concerned about what was happening on the left, but he thought January 6th was
an insurrection, he said the day after.
I mean, just a shattering of norms of a sort that we would agree with. But I don't know why he's not essentially a Mitt Romney or a Liz Cheney, there are obviously Republicans who have discovered the line past which they would not be dragged, and they agree with us about Trump. So I don't understand what's happened to people who are kind of splitting the baby there. And I mean, I guess it's audience capture on some level, or it would be the ruination of their business. I mean, seeing the breakup between Ben and Candace was somewhat instructive insofar as I did see it. I mean, I think I missed 95% of it again because I'm not online, but I saw enough to know, what Ben has been getting from his audience and just how much, so much of his audience doesn't love the Jews. Yeah, I mean, what do you think is happening there? Is it just economics?
Yeah, it's like you said, Like, well, in the beginning, it seems like they're on board with being more critical, but then as time goes on and the party coalesces around Trump, and Trump is absolutely a cult of personality and he engenders like cultish, obsession and adoration, there is no room for disagreement. So one, on a numbers level, that's just factual. Like Donald Trump enjoys very wide and very deep support from conservative voters. So the media is going to reflect that as well. You can see this in the Dominion lawsuit versus Fox, by the way, that the deposition, the exhibits that they had in their pretrial stuff was fascinating. There are so many slides of people at Fox News saying, this is a lie. We know this is a lie, but my God, we're losing, 30% of our viewership to Newsmax and OAN. So I guess we're going to have to tell the lie to keep our viewers. Like it's so clear. Like they won that case. Well, they didn't win it. Fox settled right before trial because they knew they were going to lose that case. One of the largest settlements, I believe, in corporate history for public settlements for defamation. And you see that. And also, that's not an accident. It's not just a result of numbers. It's also incredibly intentional by Donald Trump. He always reminds people. He did it the day of his speech on the Ellipse on January 6th. He says, I helped these people get elected. Not going to do it anymore. I helped these people win their elections and they don't remember that. When he was talking to Raffensperger, he said, I was such a schmuck for helping this Kemp get elected. What a loser I was for doing that. And he, he did it in Georgia. He didn't want to campaign or help those people because Raffensperger and Kemp wouldn't play ball with helping him steal the election in Georgia. Trump does this very intentionally. He wouldn't go on Fox News. Man, after they called Arizona, he was so mad and he stopped calling into their shows and he was, retweeting and reposting OAN more. So if you don't play ball with him, he will try to destroy you by not working with you anymore and by constantly degrading you. And the followers and the fans, they pick up on that and they act accordingly. So it's hard when you got a business like, man, am I going to cover Trump honestly and have my entire business go bankrupt because no conservative is going to watch me and nobody on the left, no offense, is turning into Ben Shapiro and the Daily Wire? Or do you play ball?
But doesn't it still strike you as fundamentally astonishing that Trump has been able to succeed the way he has? That there was that kind of audience that was willing to become a cult of personality around such a, on some levels, just such an unimpressive person. I mean, he is just so obviously a fraud, right? I mean, he really is a game show host who pretended to be a great businessman. And he's a Mark Burnett confection, right? And I mean, it's not that he has no talents. I mean, he's entertaining, right? He can be funny, but I mean, he's barely competent at that, really. It's not like you have an entertainer of the talent of somebody like Jamie Foxx deciding to be a demagogue, right? I mean, he's just basically entertaining. And I do think that the fact that so many people find him funny counts for an enormous amount of his political success. I mean, just whatever happens at a debate, to be able to say, only Rosie O'Donnell or whatever his other laugh lines were, that's just guarantees your victory at that stage in the primary, given the nature of our politics. But it does, I mean, I've always thought of him as a kind of evil Chauncey Gardner, and I think this probably undersells his gifts, such as they are. But I mean, I've just thought of him as somebody who, for whatever reason, he found himself in a political and social context in America in the early 21st century, where our appetite for junk food for the mind had just reached its peak, and we're a reality TV culture, we're a social media culture. We care about fame perhaps more than anything, and you drop this shameless narcissist into this context, and he manages to function by a different reputational physics. I mean, he manages to seem more authentic than anyone else just by being a shameless con man. In my imagination, the reasons for his success have much more to do with the environment than with the person, but perhaps I'm selling him short.
No, I mean, I agree. Trump is there is no level of media criticism that was too harsh on how clueless he is around some things. I watched him doing something. He was talking to the United Nations.
Oh my God, how much more?
I think it was the UN. I think it was a UN thing. And somebody asked him about Western liberalism. Have you seen this clip?
No.
They ask him about, what do you think about people saying that we might be seeing the fall of Western-style liberalism? And he starts going off on like LA and San Francisco. And I'm thinking in my mind, oh my God, he doesn't even know what he doesn't know what that means. He doesn't know what liberalism is. He just heard Western liberalism and he's thinking like West Coast liberals. And this guy, this is like a world politics.
This was true in spaces where you would think it would have really mattered. I mean, when he, early on, when he was trying to prove that he was a good Christian and the evangelicals were just coming around to support him, and he was asked, point blank, what are your favorite books of the Bible? And it was just absolutely obvious that he couldn't name a single book of the Bible,
Yeah.
right? And yet that all passed, even for evangelicals. I mean, I was actually at a conference around the time, and I ran into Ralph Reed, and I said, Ralph, what the fuck? I mean, this guy couldn't actually name a book in the Bible. That it wasn't that he didn't. I think his line was something like, "Oh, I wouldn't want to say it because I wouldn't want to offend anybody." Right? Like they're all so good,
Yeah.
and everyone has their favorite. And I just said, Ralph, you know that he was lying. You know that he's the least Christian person you guys have ever gotten behind. And the dodge was, as you might expect, well, I'm not going to say what's in another person's heart, and it's not for me to judge. It's for God to judge, and blah, blah, blah. But you would think somehow that would have sunk another candidate in Christian eyes, and on every other front. I mean, just the word salad he produces where he contradicts himself pointlessly, and it all works because nobody cares. But the mystery is, why does nobody care?
I think one thing that helps a lot is that we have this horrible and wonderful thing called the internet. A lot of people start with a very bad, I would say the vast majority of people on the planet have bad epistemic practice, which is fine. I mean, who cares generally? Most people, it doesn't matter how you evaluate what's true or not true. What's your theory of truth, or what is it? Like, no one cares. You don't need this for most of your life. But I think one of the big issues that we have is because so many things fundamentally, you have to know a thing to know if it will serve your end or if it will be bad for you. So for instance, if I'm on a balcony with somebody and I say I can fly, and that person's like, really? And then I jump and I fall and I die, it's very immediately obvious. Okay, well, that's a really bad idea. I'm not going to believe that guy. You can't really selectively pick and choose the things you want to believe when you're grounded, when there aren't magic boxes around you, when you're just in the world. But nowadays with the internet, it is so easy to handcraft whatever narrative you want. And even when you don't think it's that big of a deal, it is a big deal. People get mad at me sometimes when I'm kind of like, I'll pedantically correct lies. And people are like, why? Who cares? It's not that big of a deal. It's like, okay, well, if you tell 10 little lies, it makes it really easy to sell a big lie. And people have this bad assumption for humans that our brains are designed as these like, ontologically, we have like these epistemically grounded truth-seeking machines that are just trying to figure out what's true at any point in time. And people have no idea how much subjectivity, how much normativity is involved in all of the truth-seeking that we do. So then when you go onto the internet, you're thinking, okay, well, I'm a true brain. I'll get all my media. We'll see what's going on. You don't realize that you were engaged in basically drug abuse. You're finding stuff that just makes you feel good, regardless of the detriment it has to your epistemic, your psychological, your emotional well-being. Like a really funny example of this, I correct this every time I see some people say this, and people think it's a small deal, but I don't. I think these are all really big deals. Donald Trump, the assassination attempt, after the guy missed and Donald Trump's ear got shot, Donald Trump came up immediately and he gave that, let's fight, the power. Yeah, let's go. It was not immediate. It was like a minute long. There's like a thing of him like looking for his shoes, like watch the full clip. And people will be like, oh, what? So you don't think he was brave? It's like, well, he might have been brave. You want to say that? Fine. But why lie about him coming up immediately? And I had a guy challenge me on this and he went over my thing. He was like, Jesse's lying. Like, let's look at this video. And the guy shows an edited video. And I'm like, bro, my video is like 2 minutes long. Your video is like 1:47 seconds. And it ends a full minute after mine. Like you're clearly watching an edited thing. If the truth is good enough, why do you have to exaggerate? So I think people don't realize how easy it is to selectively like edit and clip things and how insanely crazy you can sell a particular factoid, something so far from the truth, just based on the collection of clips or things that you've gathered to show somebody.
Yeah. Well, I think we've both been the subject of clips that have been widely misperceived. Do you ever worry that you are too online? Perhaps that is a category that doesn't even exist for you, but I wonder about just what your engagement with social media in particular, but I guess just all your time spent online. I wonder what that feels like and if there's any course correction in your life that you've thought about. Because I just have to say, I mean, every time I say it, it's now painfully boring, but the astonishment and even embarrassment associated with it is undiminished. I mean, when I deleted my Twitter account, my life changed radically and in ways that I guess I could have anticipated, but it was like just getting off a drug, right? It was just like I had just managed to completely fuck myself over in how I was engaging with this. I mean, it was this illusion. I mean, in part, it was worse than an illusion. It was a half-truth, right? So it's very hard to debunk a half-truth because you're always in touch with the half that's true. But the sense was that I was just getting information, in the most timely possible way about what was going on in areas of the world I care about. And to some degree, that's true, obviously. I mean, Twitter is X has been the best place for that when there's breaking news. But what you're also getting is this funhouse mirror in which even people you know are appearing increasingly grotesque, and you have become one of the grotesques, at least for them. I mean, you can't even quite control how you're appearing for them, despite you have control over what you put out. And the clipification of everything, and the reaction or non-reaction, or what gets read into your silence, and just all of that, it's just an insane psychological experiment that we've all been enrolled in, and I don't think it's going well. And I don't think it's going well at scale for a culture, and it certainly wasn't going well for me personally. So I'm just wondering how you think about this in your own life, and I guess just how you think about social media as a cultural phenomenon at this point.
Yeah, so narrowly speaking, just for me on a personal level, as animated as I am, and as much as I do care about these issues, when I'm tweeting, I'm tweeting, and when I'm being unhinged online, I'm being unhinged online, but I don't take that with me to sleep. I always tell people, especially young people, if I'm talking at like colleges or for whatever, when I get invited to do speeches to students, if your engagement with politics is making you miserable, you have to stop. If you're legitimately if you want to get a little bit wound up while you're there, that's fine. But if you find that for hours afterwards, you're just left with this disgusting, horrible feeling, or it's having a significant impact on other parts of your life emotionally, psychologically, then yeah, you have to disengage, because you can't. I mean, it's in a way, it's kind of like that. Don't set yourself on fire to keep others around you warm. If you're destroying yourself, even if you think you're going to do good or something by contributing online, you're not going to be able to by destroying yourself so much. So on a personal level, I do enjoy my life. I like fighting with people on Twitter. I like arguing with people. That's just the kind of person I grew up as. It's fun for me. But if I found that it was God, this is making me miserable, then I just don't engage with stuff that would make me feel that way, unless I have a very, very compelling reason to. On a broader sense,
but just to drill down on that, so you don't find, or you don't suspect that it's giving you a distorted sense of humanity. I felt that the world was more populated with psychopaths than it in fact is, right? I knew, because I could see that I was seeing the worst of even people who I actually know, and I know they wouldn't be that bad if I were sitting across the table from them, but online and when pointed at their own audiences, they had, it's like their ethical IQ got cut in half, right? And their basic decency just evaporated. And so I just felt like I was getting an inaccurate picture of just how unscrupulous most people are, because they're functioning in an environment that is just turning normal people into psychopaths, but they're functionally psychopaths online, but offline they would still be normal people if I was just engaging them in that space.
So that's what I'm not sure about. So this is exactly what I was going to hit on the wider sense. I remember in 2016, there was this, people used to say bro, Twitter's not the real world. And I think they were kind of right for the most part. There was a lot of political discourse online, but people online were, as you said, they're kind of crazy. I think that as time has gone on, I don't think that we've moved towards realizing that people online are crazy. I think that the online world has become reverse integrated into our reality, right? I mean, one, that's just a natural physical consequence of being closer physically to the internet, because now we all have a phone in our pockets that gets us onto the internet at every single point in time. Everything is connected and wired through the internet. News stations that talk to you on the radio, or that you watch on TV, or let's see what's going on, showing the Twitter feeds and all the presidents and all the candidates, and everybody is active on all of these social media things. So for all the craziness that exists online, it feels like we're moving more toward, online is becoming more reality driven in a very unfortunate way. Everybody in the country is expected to have, a 100% decided opinion on Leah Thomas and the Iman, the Khalif or whatever, the boxer, the Olympic trans boxer. Everybody has to, if you work in a warehouse in Kansas, you need to have a strong opinion on whether or not the IBA was correct in releasing the disqualification information for these two fighters. Why? Who cares about this? So I agree that it creates this, it's like that, there's this really dumb horror comic or whatever in Korean or Japanese or something, where there's holes in walls that people put their bodies into, and they come out grotesquely disfigured on the other side. That's what social media, I think, is people look at it as it's just an online thing. But when you participate in it enough, it will change you. Right?
Yeah.
Every action you take is affecting your ultimate character in some way, size, shape, or form. And yeah, if you partake in these psychopathic environments, you act like it, it will, imprint itself on you in a reverse manner. So I think that's what's happening, unfortunately.
Yeah, but you don't feel like it's happening to you. I mean, you're not worried that it's bending you in your ethics or in your engagement with people based on just how much time you're spending in that space?
I mean, I try my best not to let it. Unfortunately, this is a part of the conversation where every single thing I say is a huge red flag, because all of the things around like truth and objectivity and centrality and all this are like aesthetics that people wear and then wield in the most bad faith manner possible. But I truly do, being politically independent, I really do try to, I have like little things that I do to keep in check, like where my biases are and how I'm viewing people and am I being fair or not? And there are like questions I ask myself and ways that I approach my community where I'm like, how do I make sure I'm not getting super audience captured or I'm not having a super distorted view of this particular thing? It usually involves a lot of reading and research on topics. It usually involves like actual discrete methods, like can I argue both sides of an issue compellingly? If I were to ask myself a question, what would it take to change my mind from this? Can I give a quick answer, or am I actually like getting ideologically captured? Would I be comfortable fighting with this particular person? Like there are questions I ask myself to try to keep steady the course there. But I'm a unique case in that because I'm so not politically part of a big group. I do support the Democrats a lot, but I'm not politically part of those communities. I have more independence there because if I give a take, I'm not going to have to, all of a sudden disavow half my party or have a whole bunch of fights with people who thought they were my friend, who thought we were on the same page politically.
Yeah, I think we're in more or less the same orbit politically, as far as I understand the types of views you've argued for.
Oh, shit, he said the word.
What do you think we disagree about, if anything?
What do we disagree about? Depends on how many. I think probably one of the big disagreements that people wanted me to fight on a lot, or that my fans would bring this up, is the centrality of religion in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. That was a big one.
Yeah, well, maybe let's fight about that.
Sure.
Let me have it. What am I wrong about on that front?
I feel like when I hear you talk about it, I feel like Islam is a very big centerpiece to that conflict.
Oh my God, the music!
I feel like
get me the fuck out of here.
The originations of the conflict, if you take the stretch of time from say like 1880 to 1967.
If you'd like to continue listening to this conversation, you'll need to subscribe at samharris.org.
There you go.
Once you do,
episode.
You'll get access to all full-length episodes of the Making Sense podcast. The podcast is available to everyone through our scholarship program. So if you can't afford a subscription, please request a free account on the website. The Making Sense podcast is ad-free and relies entirely on listener support, and you can subscribe now at samharris.org.
Do you feel so negative about this conversation? I don't feel negative. Just covering a lot of similar ground.
I thought that was really bad. Listen, I know you're going to type up a rep. I can't believe he's saying this. He's so uneducated about this topic. Shut the fuck up. They believe anything Trump says? Yeah, they believe anything Trump says, or they don't believe anything. It hurts how fucking dumb you are right now. Okay.
Oh my God.
Let's we're gonna do one, and then we're gonna move on. Okay. Do you believe what the media told you about January 6th? What am I wrong about? What am I wrong about? I mean, because there's no way that there's not a single thing that you can give me that I'm incorrect about this with.
Not a single thing.
Is it that we didn't look retarded? Because I think that we did. I think if you ask anybody else in any other country except for the people in like Venezuela, they're like, oh yeah, we had that happen last Tuesday. But like otherwise, yeah, we did.
Jesus.
Sorry. Literally everything. Everything. I'm wrong about everything. Wow.
I agree the January stuff looks stupid, but I don't think Trump told them to do that.
So, let me ask you a question. For the people that broke the windows at the Capitol building that day, what do you think should have happened to them?
My God, this chat. You mean the FBI that broke the windows?
No, I'm not.
You mean the feds? Where'd that comment go? This one. Nice.
Asking you guys. I'm asking him. Because, like, there's a video of people breaking windows. There's actually multiple videos, but there is a video.
There was literally a Democrat Fed that was inciting violence and break in the Capitol, and the people called him a Fed. He's talking about Ray Epps, by the way. There's there's multiple videos of cops letting people in. Wow.
And to be fair, I did see this on the mainstream media. So are they actors? Maybe they're actors. Do you think people that commit a misdemeanor should be in prison for 10 to 20 years? You have turned my question into a hyperbole in the opposite direction in order to turn the conversation around on me. I did not say they should be in prison for 10 to 20 years. But do you think they should go free? Do you think Trump should pardon them? I don't think they should go to jail for 10 to 20 years either. I think that's a waste of our taxpayer money to do that. That's too long. But I don't think they should get pardoned. How about the George Floyd rioters?
Not one person is in jail for the BLM riots. Did you know that? Not a single person got arrested or jailed. Not even one. Not one person.
What do you... You think that... Oh, well, they're fine because it was for racial justice. Do you think that's what I'm going to say?
Jesus. Okay, I'm good. There are 250 more references to Pence in this fucking document. We're up to January 5th. President Trump demanded to see Vice President Pence again the same day. He canceled a planned lunch with the president. Delay a coronavirus task force meeting later the same day when he was called to the Oval Office to meet with the president. 192. What's the proof of this? The deposition of Greg Jacobs. Again. Greg.
Mr. J.
Figure out how to keep annotations in the document all within Obsidian, along with annotations that syncs and works on desktop and mobile versions. Do you care to use this technology? Figure out how to keep annotations and document all within Obsidian, along with annotations. No, I'm okay. I'm good. I'm Guccian. Deposition on which page? 193 was this. 157 to 158. Wait, 192. No, wait. 215 to 217. What does PP mean? Like pages? Why is pages abbreviated to PP? What do you think? Page is P, pages is PP? Why? correct abbreviation for pages is PP. In formal writing, the double P letter refers to the plural pages. Doesn't that seem kind of fucked up? Doesn't that seem kind of dumb? I was taught it was pluripagina in Latin. Yikes, bro. That's kind of sort of major cringe. Short testified that the below excerpt from the book Peril may have been sensationalized, but was generally consistent with Short's understanding of the discussion. If these people say you have the power, wouldn't you want to? Trump asked. I wouldn't want any one person to have that authority, Pence said. But wouldn't it almost be cool to have that power? Trump asked. No, Pence said. Look, I read this and I don't see a way to do it. We've exhausted every option. I've done everything I could and then some to find a way around this. It's simply not possible. My interpretation is no. No, 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 Trump shouted. You don't understand. Mike, you can do this. I don't want to be your friend anymore if you don't do this. Oh, no. Somebody just climbed on my balcony. Okay, cringe. All of this is cringe. An accurate New York Times article about the vice president prompts a false statement in response by President Trump. January 5th. Warning. Trump tweet. Okay. Oh wait, we have a album to listen to. The Light Return Composition Challenge guy worked on this for a game, apparently. When I say worked on this, I mean, I think it's pretty sure it's just him. So... 206. Oh my god, I didn't mean to do this. Doesn't matter. Can you help me out? Do you remember what's the name of the song you listened to that had the Phantom of the Opera sample, but with guitars and an upbeat pop structure? That was a composition challenge that was done by UK Daza. I think it was composition challenge 6 or 4 or 5, one of those, but... $210 to $11. White House presidential call log. At 9:58 p.m. on January 5th, President Trump issued a statement that he had dictated to Jason Miller, disputing the Times account. 2:12. President Trump lied repeatedly in a short statement. 2:13. 2:12. 2:13. What is this? 2:12. Statement from President Trump via his campaign. The New York Times report regarding comments Vice President Pence supposedly made to me today is fake news. He never said that. The Vice President and I are in total agreement that the Vice President has the power to act. Damn. Shamelessness. I should have the timeline on all this. Mark Short was furious as well and called Jason Miller to forcefully express his displeasure that a statement could have gone out that misrepresented the Vice President's viewpoint without consultation. 217. Furious. 17, page 163. You ever listen to Hi-Yo verse music? Nope. Bannon publicly amplifies the pressure on Vice President Pence on Trump. Misrepresented the Vice President's agreement with Eastman's theories on again, off again political advisor. Bannon pressed Trump. Probably got a select committee learned from phone record. Wait. President Trump is... Steve Bannon pressed President Trump's campaign against Vice President Pence in public. Bannon echoed the public pressure on Pence that the president continued to propagate by talking about his purported authority. The select committee learned from phone records that Bannon spoke to Trump at least twice on January 5th. During a January 5th, 2021 episode of War Room Pandemic, Bannon and his guests openly berated Vice President Pence. Bannon cited an erroneous news report claiming that Senator Grassley would preside over the certification of the Electoral College vote instead of Vice President Pence. 221. Wait, find me this one. Okay, go. This is your next episode. Ooh, this one looks like it has good quotes. All hell is going to break loose tomorrow. This is going to be we watched a January 4th episode of The War Room, right? Deposition, video, Trump tweet, email, testimony, note, deposition. Wait, did I not link this at all? Or was this on January 4th? Oh, January 2nd was the last one of these watched. Okay. January 4th. I want The War Room Pandemic. From Bannon. Find me this episode. Don't link me J6 things. It's not from the government. This is not it. I want the episode. Here's an article about the quote appearing in a hearing. I don't want that. I want the full episode. It's somewhere. It's out there. January 2nd video. Episode 625. Let's see. So it's probably what, like episode 630? Maybe? They do like multiple ones per day. Fuck. I don't think we could just... What day do you want? I want January 5th. But why did they like stop labeling them? Or they don't always. Fuck. It didn't go this far, did it? Episode 790. This was on March 11th. This is January 28th. (6:31) and 6:32. Oh my God, we found it. Hold on. Wait, hello? I went too far forward. Shit, hold on. 6. One day away. Men of action. Jack Posobiec. That traitorous fuck. Okay, let's see. During a January 5th, 2021 episode of The War Room Pandemic, Bannon and his guests openly berated President or the Vice President. Okay. Episode 630 was on the 4th. 631 was on the 5th. 632 was on the 5th. 633 was on the 5th. Bro, how many episodes did these guys fucking do? 634? This must be the day of, January 6th, right? The 5th? What? 635 was on the 6th. Okay. Holy fuck.
Este es Jesús para que le enseñes su cuarto. Él es tu jefe. Haz lo que...
Hey, Robert Herjavec from Shark Tank. I'm a huge fan. Hey, what is your number one tip for saving money?
Oh boy, what is it?
Pay off your credit card debt as soon as possible.
Okay.
And there's actually a way to do that without paying the full amount.
How?
What if I can't afford to pay more every month?
Wait, what?
You don't have to pay more. In fact, your monthly payments go down, and they can go down as much as 40%. So monthly payments go down, total debt goes down, and I can be out of debt that fast. So what do I need to do? Thousands of people have...
Well, the virus has now killed more than 100 people.
And the worst happens. On the morning of the 4th, guess what? Not good enough. As we told you, they had this plan. They called it the Big Red Mirage, and they were going to come in and steal it, right? Trump won on game day. They were going to steal it, and that's what they tried to do. Officially, YouTube, yes, officially. The Safe Harbor was on the 8th. The Electoral College was on the 14th. In YouTube, it didn't matter. It was illegal. These were illegally put forward electors from the state legislatures. That'll all become clear tomorrow. But we're converging these forces, layer by layer, step by step, day by day, from a ballroom in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, to a rally in Maricopa County, right? From going to see these machines at Brian Kennedy in Nevada, which they never really got to see the Dominion machines. They kind of got kicked out of. Up to the hearings, all night hearings that Jack Posobiec put up on his Periscope account, did live commentary, had 1 million views on, where Knudsen and Spindall was it, the two individuals stood up for the to not change the manual that the Democrats want to do in the dark of night, to change the manual after the vote on the indefinitely confined. All of these little bits and pieces, all the lawsuits, Coleman, and all these things, and I want you to remember, particularly the people in the live chat, particularly people that were getting frustrated. Oh, let's go take over this. We're going to do this. No, step by step by step. We control it. Remember, we control the state legislatures. We control these executives. You just have to impose your will on it, and you did, step by step by step. And so the eve of this historic vote tomorrow in the House and the Senate is in the reviewing of this of the Electoral College ballots. We're now on the cusp of really reversing this, decertifying this. And that is because of you, this audience that has responded to everything. Remember, what you did on November 3rd after that, all the emails, all the phone calls, all the rallies, all the text messages, which seem frustrating. Can't we do it better? Can't we do it quicker? Oh, they're 0 for 49 in the thing. They're 0 for 55 in the courts. They're mocking us and ridiculing us in the courts. Does Rudy know what he's doing? Rudy's, bleeding out of his ears. And Sidney Pound, the great Sidney Pound, saying, I'm going to release the Kraken and all that. Just remember it all. Okay? It's now put us in the point that it's all converging, and now we're on, as they say, the point of attack, right? The point of attack tomorrow. It's going to kick off. It's going to be very dramatic. And it's going to be another cold day in Washington, D.C. Gates open at 7, right? The ellipse. Since the 19th century, I think that Kylie told us yesterday, since the 1880s, around the time of, guess what? Talk about ironic. Around the time they passed the Control Act, the Counting Act, the Electoral Counting Act.
Can I get, so this, would it be accurate to say that the time broadcast for this was 6:04 p.m. Eastern time? This was at 6:04. Do you think that's what this is the active time right now?
Of 1887. It's been since that time, since the ellipse, the President's Park at the ellipse has been used for a rally like this. Tomorrow they've got a magnificent stage.
No, wait.
President's going to take the stage at 11 o'clock. And this is not a rally. He's going to not give a rally speech tomorrow. He's, I believe, going to give the opening argument, right? The opening argument on his defense of his massive victory. And so throughout the world, as we said, these generals and admirals sent this letter shortly before I think in September, October, Jack and Maggie, when they sent the letter, 250 of them that had fought in, basically in every war since Korea, that said this is the most important election in the history of the Republic. This is not the war room. This is the flag officers. As we said, It's the most important election in 5,000 years of Chinese history. It's all on the line. South China Morning Post reporting this morning that President Xi has said prepare for war. Okay, remember they're already at war with us. They're at in unrestricted warfare. They're at economic war. They're at information war. Maggie's got that. I tell you what, Maggie went down and gave the speech. We got new Maggie here. You know, Maggie's you're getting very assertive. I think that speech you stepped your game up, and now we're seeing a new Maggie. Usually Maggie's very shy and retiring. What do you got?
Well, yeah, I just wanted to confirm that President Trump has confirmed the time he's going to be speaking tomorrow.
Is he tweeting that out now?
He tweeted that out. He said, "I'll be speaking at the Save America rally tomorrow at the Ellipse at 11 a.m. Eastern. Arrive early. Doors open at 7 a.m. Eastern. Big crowds."
It's going to be historic just to be there. That site you go back up the South Lawn to the portico. It's absolutely stunning. President Trump will be there. Historic, hasn't happened in 150 years, something like that. He's also tweeting out a couple of warnings tonight, Maggie.
Yes, he also tweeted, "Antifa is a terrorist organization. Stay out of Washington. Law enforcement is watching you very closely." A warning to Antifa.
Was Antifa? What happened at Senator Hawley's house last night?
Last night was wild. I don't know if people saw, but late, I think it was after 11 p.m., Senator Hawley tweeted out that Antifa was at his doorstep. They were terrorizing his wife and small child who were at home. He's out of town right now in Missouri. And yeah, I guess they vandalized his door. I guess they went up. They were banging on his front door. They had bullhorns. They were having some kind of late night protest. And it was really outrageous. They were obnoxious to the neighbors as well. And my understanding is police actually did come down, but they allowed this event to continue and carry on.
Well, I tell you, people have a right to protest. Look, let's put it on the table. The deplorables have shown up at the House this weekend in Pennsylvania with both Pittsburgh playing and the Eagles in a very important game on a cold day in Pennsylvania. I think at Senator Corman's house and the House Speaker Cutler, there were 1,000 deplorables outside with their flags, and they were not happy, right? They colored inside the lines, but a guy on a Sunday afternoon, you're trying to watch a football game, and you got 1,000 deplorables outside saying, "Stop the steal."
Well, there's a little tell there for two organizations, both the GOP and the NFL. Guess where they were on a Sunday? They weren't there talking and watching the game. They were there opposing an elected Republican official who does not take their oath seriously.
I want to make sure I'm not defending what either the more radical elements of Black Lives Matter or Antifa did last night, particularly Senator Hawley's house. However, I've been very upset since last night. We saw that. We contacted people and got out there. Where's the Capitol Police and Mitch McConnell and the security around Senator Hawley? Senator Hawley coming out so bold.
Jesus, what is lurking in your home? My God.
Right? It didn't have to connect a bunch of dots, Jack Maxey, to know there was going to be some problems. Particularly, I guess he lives in the suburbs of Maryland. You've got, he's traveling back to Missouri. I'm sure to talk to his constituents one last time to say, hey, look, I'm kind of leading this thing, right? And this is going to be very historic. I want to make sure that walk you through what my logic is. His wife and small baby are there by themselves. It seems like he got run the play, but you may call an audible. So I'm not a believer in that right now. Just say run the play. So, and you're seeing already the controversy that he's just the vice president, just nothing. He's just but a minister. Maggie, jump in here.
I was just going to say that at the end of Hawley's tweet last night, he said this: "Let me be clear. My family and I will not be intimidated by left-wing violence." And I feel like that's the kind of thing that people want to see. This tweet got 225,000 likes on Twitter when he tweeted that out, and people want to see this kind of action from their senators. And I think that other senators should take note. And as you mentioned, I think this guy needs to have security, and Mitch McConnell needs to get behind him and make sure.
He was down at a military academy. Became LSU, but was a military academy in Louisiana. Comanches, and the people that fought on either side became well. This is what happened basically a week ago, last week. We had Mo Brooks and then Josh Hawley. We had one in the House and one in the Senate. It's a one congressman, so she decides.
And one of the things that's been most disappointing for me about all of this is not so much watching the cowardice of the people in my own party, but my surprise because of my belief that there are people of character in the other party that they haven't stepped forward, because what we are seeing abused here is so fundamental to our way of government and to a peaceful future that it seems irresponsible to me that more are not contesting this.
Let's take a short break. We're going to try and we come back to go back to the plaza. Hey, you're in the war room, man. We're going to try it again. We're going to try to go back down to Ben Bergquam. Also, Greg Mann's going to give us an assessment of the legislature in Pennsylvania. He knows Pennsylvania politics better than anybody. Maggie, we got so much to get through. We'll return in a second. Go back down to Liberty Plaza on the War Room.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon.
To the podcast. This is where we're trying to make it up as we go along. Let's go to Ben Bergquam, Real America's Voice, down in Liberty Plaza, Washington, D.C.
Hey, Steve, I got you. I know we're having a little bit of technical issues out there, but you know what? I got to tell you, the people are fired up. They're standing up, and it's just the beginning of a massive fight for this country. You heard those young guys that we were talking to earlier, Jordan and his brother. The people are waking up, and it's thanks to...
Oh, he's about to say something so convenient. And it's all thanks to who?
Programs like War Room and networks like Real America's Voice that's happening.
Good job.
Okay, we can hear you, Ben. So let's go ahead and continue with your your interview.
Give me the thing. Talk about Pence.
Well, I got to tell you, the interview that I had to run away. It's been a couple minutes, but we got it. We recorded it. We're going to be playing it. The message that he had, though, he was from Venezuela, and he had come. What's interesting, I met him. His name's Jonathan. He had come 20 years ago. I met him. This was before we, COVID and all of that we saw. And I was when I was listening, I was like, yeah, I know this is happening. The left is going against us. They're guys. You have to watch the interview. I'm going to share that. You guys, everybody on the audience on War Room, you have to watch this interview. It's going to be incredible. But that's basically the gist of it. Is America? We don't have 2024. We don't have 2024. It is now. The fight is now.
This is the key point. All these guys say we're going to do commissions. We're not going to let this happen at the end. That's all a smokescreen. They're spinning you. They just want you to forget about it and go play golf in the spring, go to the beach in the summer, and you forget about it. We're not forgetting about it. This audience refuses to budge. We're on top of this. We're on fire. You got something, Greg?
Yeah, I do. So I'm going through this letter that Senator Corman and the newly elected Majority Leader Kim Ward, this is in Pennsylvania, they state that the results in Pennsylvania should not have been certified because the Secretary of State overstepped the boundaries for Act 77.
Is this a brand new letter?
Yes, this is a letter.
Hang on, let me finish the thing. This is breaking news.
And then additionally, they asked for more time for the Supreme Court to hear the Bookvar versus Trump case. And
the weekend visit to Cutler and Corman's house. That's why back to that. Blind
courage to do their job and end up and do what he had.
I want to see happen.
Well, number one, they want Vice President Pence to have the courage to stand up and do what he has the constitutional ability to do. That is number one, and we're going to see about that tomorrow, the beginning of that. They want to see the courts actually do their job, and they want to see these senators, these weak-kneed senators that say that we can't get involved with this, do their job. That's what I keep hearing over and over and over again. You cannot say that this is a state issue, that we don't have standing in these courts. This is the future of our nation. Every single representative who swore an oath to the Constitution has a duty to do everything within their power to fix the fraud, to undo the fraud. And that is the message from the people behind me and everybody that's going to be coming to Washington, D.C. tomorrow and continuing to fight tomorrow and every day on to save this country.
Wow. They're playing Miles Guo's in the background, taking on the CCP. Last thing, Ben, I got to ask you. Now there's 36 people have come forward in the House. There's 13 in the Senate. There's a lot trying to make up their minds tonight. Marco Rubio and others, guys in the House. McCarthy's not up there. You see people at the state level. Will these patriots that are in this plaza, will they forget who's with us, who's against us in defending the Constitution, defending this republic, and standing up for President Trump and his administration, his massive landslide? Do you believe they will remember who was here and who was not here?
Absolutely. We heard President Trump talk about it last night in primary Kemp in the next election in 2022. The people that are here, the patriots across this country. I met the mother of a young man named Justin yesterday, and what he said is exactly right. Right now, you are either a patriot or you are a traitor, and that is the divide in this country. The people are seeing it, they are watching it, and they're going to remember it. And if you are up for office in 2022 or 2024, and you don't stand now, plan to be primary.
Ben Bergquam from Real America's Voice. Thank you. Out in the cold there. Thank you. We on a third try. We got it. Third time's a charm. Thank you very much. And Ben Bergquam is reporting that people are channeling Jack Maxey down in the officially you're a patriot or a traitor, right? Nothing in the middle.
Well, I said last night, you see Josh Hawley's house gets attacked by these terrorists, essentially, right? And the rest of his Senate colleagues are silent. I said, you can tell by their silence who's put on the black pajamas, right? We know who is not on our team. And we're going to have a great reckoning tomorrow. And we should be very prayerful, but there will be a reveal.
Let's go back to Pennsylvania. We'll go back. This is very important. Remember, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Georgia, Arizona, these state legislatures are the center of gravity. People are going back to the original interpretation of the Constitution, hardwiring this into the Constitution. There's going to be a big fight over the next couple of days. As we told you months ago on the Electoral Count Act of 1887, you'll get to know this in the War Room chapter and verse. It's going to be very contentious. And now we've got, guys who were silent, had this big fight when they went on holiday, ended the session on November 30th.
I like how they add the date to it now to make it seem less relevant. Of 1887?
Call for a special session. The session came back in today. The first order of business, let's go back to this letter. Give us Greg Manns, give us the details.
Yep, so in a letter addressed to Senate Majority Leader McConnell and Minority Leader McCarthy from Senate Pro Temp Jake Corman and Majority Leader Kim Ward in the Pennsylvania legislature, unequivocally stating that the results in Pennsylvania should not have been certified and are asking for more time in order for the Supreme Court to hear the Trump versus Bookvar case having to do with the Act 77, not saying that the act that they passed was unconstitutional, but the provisions that they put in for election integrity with poll watchers and among other things, they were ignored, and guidance from the Secretary of State, in addition to those efforts to overstep those provisions, should not have been carried out.
Wow, who does that sound like? Let me think for a second. Oh, Professor John Eastman, Rudy Giuliani. The first part, remember, we're going to deconstruct what the line of attack is. The first is illegal. These electors are illegal because we're doing an illegal process. In each state, it's slightly different. In Pennsylvania, it starts with the act. It starts with the bells and whistles that were put on afterwards, right? What the Secretary of State did, what the courts did. Actually, some people go back and argue you had to have a referendum to change this. The point is, the state Senate and the state legislature is now woke. And why are they woke?
Woke.
I think you go back to the defining moment when the history of this is written, is on this show, when they came down to have lunch with President Trump, and it was Senator Altman?
Yes.
Altman from Lancaster, 2 miles outside. He sent out this tweet or a message, I'm kind of busy, I got the holidays to do it, and it's a long drive. Lancaster's like 2 hours.
Wait, I think he's using woke in the right-wing sense here, I think. I don't know if... Was woke a thing we used in... No, woke was there by 2020, 2021, right?
This audience, literally... he had an attitude adjustment. You fired up on him on text messages, on emails, on callings I was bringing down, and that afternoon he said, no mas.
Right.
No mas.
He actually came out with a letter that sounded like it had been written by one of Trump's lawyers. He said all these problems, nailed them one by one. And that was in about 4 hours' time. And this is what we're talking about, people. You need to...
I don't remember when woke became associated with left stuff. Because he's using woke right now in the, red pill way.
Keep calling these people. If you can't get through on the board here in Washington, D.C., call their local office.
Yeah. No, listen. We're just getting into the red zone, okay? We've held the line. We moved the chains, right? We've called the play. We're going to run the play. But you are not recourse. You're an active part of this. This would not have happened. We have not... Do you think, honestly, these guys in Congress would have done anything? You have a couple of patriots. Do you think, honestly, any of the guys in the Senate would have done anything? Do you think any of these state legislatures... Corman shined you on 6 weeks ago. Okay. Yeah, it got certified, but hey, the Secretary of State did it. We're going to go, no, 30th, it's really... We can't do it. It's impossible. We can't stay another day. We can't stay another 2 days. We got to go because it says the session's over. And we said at the time, hey, we're coming back in January, and this posse's not going to change. Why are we on the cusp of victory? We're on the cusp of victory for only one reason. You are woke. And remember, when you pull the camera back, look at what Archbishop Vigano said the other night. It's the Great Reset versus the Great Awakening. You saw this in the Trump when you had the 96-mile caravan in Arizona. We had the 50,000 Hispanics protesting and self-organizing, protesting for Trump in South Florida against communism, in Venezuela, in Cuba, in the Caribbean. In Butler, Pennsylvania, the 50,000 people showed up in a 14,000 person town. That was, we're going to return in a second with
the demon.
I think I'm getting tired of winning, right? Another massive breaking news out of Pennsylvania. Greg Mans.
Yep. So in the House, we have 8 members of the delegation, Republican members.
My God, this is worse than the Bernie delusion. Here's how we can still win. Here's breaking news out of Pennsylvania. They did flip their vote. They're changing their mind. They are going to vote for Trump. Breaking news out of Georgia, guys. They changed their mind.
Will be objecting to Biden's electoral votes.
How many total in the delegation?
9 in the House, and then Toomey came out.
That's what I'm saying. Well, yeah, forget Toomey. But I'm saying, so you've got 8 of the 9 House members.
Yes.
8 of the 9 House members in Pennsylvania have come out now and said this is the fraudulent. They got to be decertified.
Yep, exactly.
Ladies and gentlemen, in Pennsylvania, the Patriots in Pennsylvania have finally stood tall. We knew that Corman and Cutler and these folks would finally do it, and why? They just needed a little nudge, right? They just need a nudge from the War Room posse. You have done it. Plus, remember, this is why we did after hours. We're on Skyping and they put these calls in Lackawanna County into all these Patriot groups around and conservative groups and Tea Party groups and everything like that. That's what's doing it. It's an uprising of the people. They would not back down. Alexander Priate told me on Sunday, Pennsylvania exploded during the day. People have had a belly full of it. They're tired. This is a populist revolt. Now, here's what we're going to go now to the great Peter Navarro, assistant to the president for manufacturing and trade, but in his personal capacity, has had an interest with his analytical abilities he got when he got his PhD. He's really drilled down the math. He wrote, really, one of the inflection points came when he pulled together all this analysis in the Immaculate Deception. It was written in a way. He's got to do it. Peter on the National Pulse. By the way, Peter, so my agent's going to call you.
If you look carefully at that photo, Brother Bannon, and that is a Trump Pence jacket from 2016.
2006.
Okay, that's the original.
By the way,
still the greatest, baby. Here's something interesting.
Hang on.
Hang on, let me say this. Now, my turn for the mic here. Of all the people who came into this administration, including you, I'm one of 3 people left of the original campaign people. It's unbelievable. There's like Scavino and Miller. That's about it. I got this picture in my office. And it's like, got all these folks there when we were signing the TPP. Remember when you got out of the Trans-Pacific Partnership? Epic day, first business day. You were standing right there. It's like everybody in that photo is ideal. It's gone. None better than the TPP.
we have 3. Hold it. It's Navarro, Stephen Miller, the great Dan Scavino, the former caddy, and of course we got Penson's report. Why do you have another report that pulls the camera back and looks at the Democratic Party grand strategy? Here's the reason. This report, coupled with the Immaculate Deception, is going to get sent to. Guess where it's going to get sent to? Every state legislature in the country. And this is what in Georgia, in Arizona, and in Pennsylvania, and in Michigan, and Wisconsin, they're going to read Navarro's mathematics report, and they're going to read his grand strategy.
Yeah, let me walk you through this. Donald J. Trump, Pennsylvania, he stole it. But here's a minute, basically, to commit for equivalent 2-pronged strike. And he knows what they did was they strategically gamed the whole process. They went in across 6 states. They changed laws. They changed rules. They changed guidance of just because the strategy itself, the mechanisms, we get this thing.
Okay. In Pennsylvania, the Senate pro temp Corman and the Majority Leader Kim Ward, along with other time, in order for the Supreme Court to hear the Trump first book bar case.
Bingo, by the way. Let me just say bingo, okay? This is what we need going into tomorrow.
Tell me why is that so important in your mind? Why is that so important?
Because up on Capitol Hill, they breathe a different kind of air. And none of that air has the grassroots smell in it. And to do what needs to be done. And we're going to see some backbone tomorrow, or this republic's going to perish. So this is good news for Pennsylvania. But look, I mean, this Georgia election, it's like if you go through both of the reports, Immaculate Deception, Art of the Steal, Georgia's like the first among equals in terms of being a cesspool. I mean, they just run the table on every possible way to screw this thing up. And the useful idiots, you know the expression, Steve. The useful idiots, Lenin called these naive individuals, can be manipulated to serve the political ends of a higher power. In this case, the higher power was the Democrat Party, and the useful idiots were people like Brian Kemp, the governor of Georgia, Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, and others around. Don't forget, 5 of the 6 state legislatures were Republican. And I showed you in a chess.
Thank Peter. You got about 2 minutes, but I want if you were able to address these state legislatures on both the combination of the.
Read the 2 reports together. They understand whatever state they're in, it happened in 5 others. They were not alone. They were part of a coordinated effort to.
Do you think Bannon is also being bad faith like Eastman, or is he just stupid? No, I think this is all very intentional. This is all a plot. These guys should all be co-indicted. These guys are crazy. Should be in jail for this shit.
To steal the presidency on behalf of a far-left agenda. And if they let that stand, this republic will not stand. That's my message to them. It's time for them to stop running and hiding, running out the clock, thinking this is going to go away. This isn't going away. Regardless of which way it falls, it's not going away. And people need to stand up. This is their time in history. And they'll either stand up and recognize that they took the strong, tough position, or they ran like cowards.
Peter, how do people get access to you in your personal capacity?
Ben is in jail. But that wasn't over this. Wasn't it unrelated shit?
Well, they get the reports. It's Real P. Navarro, Twitter account, Real P. Navarro, Twitter account for the reports. It's also up on NavarroReport.com. And, of course, I'm a big fan of having this posted on the War Room and National Pulse, Just the News, 3 of my favorites. And
never mind.
Shout out to Real America's Voice, because they're just doing a great job getting stuff out.
No, they're killing it. Peter Navarro, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
All right, Patriot.
Patriot.
Okay, brother. Next time I want you on there with the looking like a combination of Gary Player and Steve Bannon. John Solomon, Raheem Kassam in the War Room, all on Real America's Voice, and you saw Ben Burkholm down there, Maggie Vandenberg. These people are on it. John Fredericks, I think they're putting him up tonight for the special. We may try to get tracking on John in Georgia. Okay, a lot going on. Eve of one of the most important days in the history of this republic. We've been together for an impeachment. We've been together for a pandemic, and now we're going to be together to save this republic. We'll return with the entire posse of the War Room in just a second.
The entire posse.
War Roast, Stephen K. Bannon.
Yeah, of something like that.
Okay, I'm hearing from a number of people telling me that is the first public speaking you've ever done. That's the first speech you've ever given us today down at the Liberty Plaza?
Yeah, of something like that. That was the first time I've done anything. I mean, I've spoken to like 20 people before at a college Republicans club or something like that, usually a longer speech, but this was the first time I got to address a large crowd. So I was definitely very nervous. So I appreciate all the love, you guys.
Well, you didn't say, as you said, you came across as one of the bad hombres. I thought you were bourbon and rusty nails.
From my experience here in the war room. You guys toughened me up a little bit.
Scuffed you up like a baseball. Okay, we're on the cusp, on the eve of a great victory for this republic. If we just run the play, okay? This posse, this audience has been central and key to this. You're out.
What?
This
opportunity.
The Democrats, they're shutting them down.
The entire year. This is our opportunity to give back to the women and their families who have given so much to our country.
We started doing this day about 6 years ago with them as well. And Trump bonds are open on a Thursday, but here
very thankful for their service and their sacrifice, and military women and
themselves are out to advance.
What you would have, Mike?
I have a heart of gratitude today. This event today is very, very.
By Sparrow on early in the day about advice of what you would tell Mike Pence and what you would have.
Does Bannon have enough viewership to actually be influencing anything? Bannon was a consultant and worked directly with Donald Trump. They talked to each other. This night, they were literally on the phone with each other. So, yes.
Mike Pence read and what you have him pray on. What would be your advice to Mike Pence tonight?
Well, we spoke about this in the break earlier. Leo the Great, a saint of the church, in describing what what we're having tomorrow, which is going to be the excuse me, I'm losing my language here. The Epiphany. Right. And St. Leo said of the Epiphany, what it was essentially was the rising up of the mass of the heathens who saw this remarkable star in the sky and began following that star to Bethlehem. And that is what is going to happen tomorrow. We are going to have the great reveal. And this army of Trump, we are following that star. And that star is not Donald Trump. That star is America. That star is our Constitution. That star is our historic liberties. That star is our obligation to the past. All of us are going to take that dirt nap one day, and we want to be able to walk into that room with all our kin, with our heads held high. And that's what I want to see happen tomorrow.
At West Point, the United States Military Academy at West Point, they call it being found. You can see from the art of the steel. Because of your crowdsourcing, because of your diligence, because of your grit, the great steel of 2020 was found. Right? The character flaws of the Democratic Party, the progressive left.
What else is West Point known for?
Duty, honor, country.
Duty, honor, country. It's that simple, folks.
And that's and this is what's so important in tomorrow. They've been found. It's going to be revealed. The point of attack, as Rudy Giuliani said, is first off the illegal elections or the electors that came forward from the state legislatures in Pennsylvania. CNN can no longer say it's baseless. CNN can no longer say nothing's happened here. The state legislature, the Senate has sent a blistering letter to say this was not certifiable, shouldn't have been done. The Supreme Court's got to hear this. We're all over it.
And the importance of the House and Speaker Cutler joining in this effort and putting it on paper and sending it to McConnell and McCarthy is to show the unity at the state legislature level to present to Congress, not just one body. That's why it's super important.
So we finally have a state legislature. With all these hearings, they finally have a state legislature. And probably the most important, Philadelphia, was up 800,000 votes. That is moving. And they're moving because of you. Also, the issue of the massive voter fraud. So tomorrow morning, look, what's going to happen, we're going to have at the Ellipse, President Trump speaks at 11, we're going to be live at 10, we've got a lot more news and analysis of exactly what's going to go into the day. I'll tell you this, it's not going to happen like you think it's going to happen, okay? It's going to be quite extraordinarily different. And all I can say is strap in. The War Room, a posse, you have made this happen, and tomorrow it's game day. So strap in, let's get ready. 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, we're going to be live here. We're going to have news and analysis about what the day pretends. President Trump takes the stage at 11 o'clock. It'll be, I think his inauguration speech is still the greatest speech he's ever given. I think this is going to be the preamble to his second inaugural address that's going to take place at high noon on the 20th of January, the year of our Lord 2021. I want to thank Joe Biden and his team for taking down their parade. We're going to put it back up because of the parade of deplorables. We got 10,000 down there in a driving rain. Wait till we close on the win. Then we're going to serve the Breakfast of Champions for breakfast on the morning of the 20th of January, the year of our Lord 2021. We're in high noon. President Donald J. Trump will take the oath of office for a second term. Until 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, get on everybody's social media. We'll see you then.
What were the quotes that they had in this? Fuck, was it one of these others? Where did I read this quote? Oh no, wait, it was over here. All hell is going to break loose tomorrow. Just understand this. All hell is going to... it's the fog of war. Discuss gender... okay, this was from a different episode then. Fuck! I don't have time to watch every single fucking one of these episodes. That was episode 634. Which episode do you think it comes from?
Watch what boiled
episode 631. Whoa, what do hard-boiled eggs do?
Have you ever noticed how you could easily eat 3, 4, or even 5?
Watch what boiled eggs do to your body.
2930,
Have you ever
episode
noticed how you
631.
could easily eat 3-4...
to your body.
Have you ever noticed how you could easily...
Shut up!
Well, the virus has now killed more than 100 people in China, and new cases have been confirmed around the world.
So you don't want to frighten the American public.
France and South Korea have also got evacuation plans.
But you...
Grassley said he will listen to the debate, and that quote, it would be really wrong for me to say I have my mind made up. This is 25 minutes.
Okay, stop. That is 20. Let's mark the time. That is at what time? That is at around 10 o'clock? 10 o'clock?
10:08, say.
10:08, that's reported by Reuters. Roll call. Roll call. Which one of the best sources in town up there, the Hill and Roll Call magazine. I want to take a deep breath. At 10:08, I want to reread that, Jack Maxey. What did they say?
Iowa Senator Charles E. Grassley, the Senate President pro tempore, says he and not Vice President Mike Pence will preside over the certification of Electoral College votes since we, quote, don't expect him to be there. Grassley said he will listen to the debate and that it, quote, would be really wrong for me to say I have made my mind up.
Okay, here's the buried lead. The buried lead's at 10:08. The buried lead is we don't expect him to be there. We don't expect him to be there. And Charles Grassley, and you know, that office, as dignified as Senator Grassley is not telling a roll call like that unless they talk about it beforehand. Now, that's not the complete story, right? Although Jack Maxey wanted to get the punchline, we held him back. Okay, this is the theater of drama, right? Okay. Now, Raheem Kassam, that's not actually the entire story, is it, sir?
That's correct. At 10:19 a.m.
That would be 11 minutes later.
That's correct. Nicholas Fandos, who is the congressional correspondent for the New York Times, tweets, a Grassley spokesman clarifies that the senator does not, quote, have any indication Pence won't be present, end quote. Grassley, he said, was trying to explain that as president pro tempore of the Senate, he would fill the chair if Pence does not show or steps out for a break.
Buried lead. If Pence does not show or steps off the floor. Now, how did that get circulated? Okay, just listen. All hell is going to break loose tomorrow. Just understand this. All hell is going to break loose tomorrow. It's going to be moving. It's going to be quick. You got to get into Raheem's Twitter feed. You got to get into Sobek's Twitter feed. There's going to be many moving pieces. Remember, it's the fog of war. Just keep focused on what's important. Here's what's important. Rudy Giuliani, the president's lawyer, just laid out the theory of the case. It's two parts. One, illegal elections. You heard Sean Parnell last night. Remember, Jack, about Pennsylvania? Sean Parnell's coming back to talk about Pennsylvania again. Illegal elections and how are they certified? The process. That's the constitutional part. The other is the receipts. The massive voter, ballot, and election fraud. And you're already seeing, right, this whole, and trust me, when they're at the Hill at 10:08 with something that well formed, and then 11 minutes later, they're walking it back to the New York Times, right? That shows you the kind of conflict behind the scenes. So there's a lot of moving pieces. Okay, one of the, yeah, go ahead.
There's several buried leads in here that should set massive alarm bells ringing. And by the way, I just want to bring back...
By the way, my alarm bell, when Jack read me the first one, my alarm bell was already off.
But I just want to remind people who's been sitting here saying, light Pence up for the last couple of weeks, right? That would be Raheem Kassam. And here's the biggest...
I think the President of the United States took your advice last night. I wrote a line in there.
Yeah, that's right. And yours, hold the line. Here's the biggest buried lead. Here's how you know what that roll call thing, what they said, was actually from the mouth of Chuck Grassley. And now his spokesman are trying to clean it up because they gave away what they planned to do. Here's how you know. Only an 87-year-old senator still goes and briefs roll call.
Yeah, exactly. They're relevant. The things are relevant, is what you're saying.
Yes.
Exactly. A guy that's, because they're not exactly...
You don't pick up the phone.
It's not Politico, it's not
Axios.
It's not Axios.
Or it's the
He doesn't know who Jonathan Swan is, right?
And roll call put it in quotations.
Yeah, that means a quote. So stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen.
But roll call was big when Chuck Grassley was big.
Exactly.
Right?
Well, Chuck Grassley thinks he may be big tomorrow with their... Yeah.
Dave, roll call has now added the clarification to there, so they must have called roll call as fast as possible.
I want to make sure, by the way, roll call is not taking... Something that explosive that's going to change markets. We'll see what the market is going to change markets. I don't think is they're not taking that quote from a Grundoon. Right. Okay, that's a senior person. Okay, I want to go to... Listen, on this show today, we're going to be jamming a lot in. We're going to call a lot of audibles, right? So just hang with us. But it's all going to be signal. None of it's going to be noise. I want to go down to Richard Barris, the young man who's, I think, one of the smartest pollsters out there, was on with our election night coverage. Richard, let's go to Georgia. What do you think right now? What are you hearing? What's the turnout like? You know, we've been quoting you the last couple of days. Said you think it's got to be 1.1 million people have to show up on game day today. And it's got to be a 60-40 split for Trump, for Trump supporters to back the two Republicans, or we're going to lose this. I think you're projecting we're starting game day at 160 to 175,000 votes down. Now, did you add in Stacey Abrams? That, you know, she's always comes in with another 2% up through her efforts. Or is your 175 a hard number that we got to top?
Yeah, because there are about 500,000 that are out, Steve, right? So they're not, they haven't been returned yet, or about 400,000 actually now.
So
this, I would caution everybody, probably not going to get a race call tonight unless one side blows it wide open, which looking at the numbers, I just don't see happening. We're at the point pretty cast, or almost there. If they can still do it if they get a little bit higher margin.
Okay, I want to go to what are your sources telling you now for the early morning vote? Because the Georgia vote, particularly the roll vote, is they get out in the morning.
That's already visiting yesterday.
I didn't see Purdue there. I saw video, right?
It's had a court appointment
anywhere because it was a lock, right? And yet, question: was it mathematically possible? Your statistician, was it mathematically possible with 14% of the vote out to recover from a 9-point lead? Yes or no? Was it mathematically possible?
Legitimately, highly unlikely. Highly. I would say no. Like in the state of Georgia, we just there are too many firsts for me to swallow.
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay, breaking news means you have permission to break in. What do we got?
So Elizabeth,
don't be shy.
I'm very shy. Elizabeth Landers over at Vice News says that Mike Pence's office says the vice president will still be presiding tomorrow.
Okay, Jack, what do you got?
I tell you what, the live stream expects him to be there. Somebody said, you watch, Pence will betray Donald Trump on Zoom. This is the kind of...
Call the play, run the play. What do you got?
Look, Grassley's office is out there saying, in all caps, they're tweeting this. Keywords, Senate debate. They're only talking about the debate, not total presiding.
He's there for the day. Okay, I want to get Grassley's office number. I want to get it up. I want to get the guys in Denver, Cameron. I want to get it up on the screen. I want the Donald Doc win. I want the hashtag War and Pandemic, and I want the live stream. We're going to give you information all day. In case you're so moved, then maybe drop an email or call Senator Grassley's office and tell him, I'll give you your unexpurgated opinion. Okay, I want to go back to Richard Barris. Richard, you're the best around. You've looked at this. You're from down there. What do you think is going to happen tonight? What should our audience look for as far as this race, particularly early in the evening? Do you think it's going to get called? What should they look for? And what is your ultimate call here?
Yeah, I think one, if not both, probably will not get called tonight, because if the election day turnout is what it needs to be, then we're going to see the drips over in 24, 48, 72 hours like we saw in November. Because like I said before, nothing really changed, Steve. Nothing changed. So if you give them an inch, they'll take a foot. And this was the point I was trying to make since the beginning of November. It really was Trump today and the rest of them tomorrow, and they did nothing about it. So here we are. And I think it's going to be close, regardless. Georgia still is Kelly.
You're waffling. It's not going to happen. Did they commit enough to win here, Mr. Barris?
No. And I think Kelly probably will be closer, which is reverse, but we did see Warnock kind of collapse a little bit over a couple of week period. I think part of that is Loeffler being stronger than Purdue was and being out. It's more accessible than Purdue was, but also Warnock's had the bad coverage that he's had, at least in alternative media, which still gets around, and people see that. There are some voters that we know these people by now, Steve. They'll tell you, I'm undecided, and they're really not. They just don't want to tell you they're going to vote against Warnock. We saw it in Florida. We've seen it before. It's pretty much social
how do people get to you? How do people get to you? How do they follow you during the day?
They can follow me on Twitter while I'm still there at peoples_abundant, and then the election results will be on peoplespundingdaily.com, and that page will be up on in about an hour actually. You can see the live results there.
Thank you, and thank your wife, the brains of the operation. So thank you guys very much. The Barris family.
Will do.
Thank you.
Will do, Steve. She always sends her best to you.
Thanks, brother. I know who the decision-making units are. That's one of the things they teach at Harvard Business School. Find out who makes the decisions. Second lady. Yep. Buried lead from the worm. Okay, I want to go now to John Fredericks. John.
Did he really go to Harvard Business School? Jesus. Okay. Tomorrow, man, we're going to put some real time into this because all of our tech issues are solved forever and nothing else is going to come back up. And oh my God. My God. Okay, be careful, don't die.